I had a man who come into my last meeting who was a former businessman. He went to the hospital. The doctors examined him, and the doctors told him he had 30 days to live. He was an alcoholic. His liver was completely gone. He didn't know God. He was an atheist, if anything. He said, well, if I ain't got but 30 days to live, I'm going to live it up for 30 days. He had a Cadillac convertible. He had money in the bank. And he said, I'm going to give the greatest 30-day blast I ever had. And he went out and bought a case of whiskey and started drinking like he never drank before. That's the reason why his liver was gone. And he said he was in his Cadillac convertible with the top down. And he was trying to find some drinking music on the radio. And when he turned it on, all of a sudden here comes this Holy Ghost preacher by the name of R.W. Shambach on the radio. And he said he almost had an accident. He reached up to try to shut the radio off and he couldn't do it. And he had to put the whiskey in his lap and pull over to the side of the road. But when he pulled over the side of the road, something got a hold of him and he couldn't turn the station. And he sat there and listened to me preach. I was telling a story of how God performed a miracle in another person's life. Tears began to run down his face. He said, Lord, I never met you. But he said, if what this man is saying is truth, he said, I'm asking you to heal me. He said, as I put my hand on the radio, and when that man prays the prayer of faith, if you're really real, and there is a God in heaven, I'm asking you to give me what this man has. And the power of God hit him, and he said he started talking in another language and didn't even know what the Holy Ghost was. He said he threw out all those bottles of liquor. Every one of them. God sobered him up, and he felt like a brand new man. Went back to the doctors, and they found a brand new liver on the inside of him. And the doctor says, you're not going to die, but you're going to live. And when he got home to his wife, he told his wife what happened. And she got scared to death of him. She only knew him as an alcoholic. A man who was out running around boozing all the time. And now all he's doing is talking in tongues. She didn't know what was wrong. So you know what she did? She took him down to the church where she went. Now I'm not going to mention the church. I wouldn't do that. But when she went down to the church and told the pastor and took her husband with him and wanted to find out what this experience was, the preacher looked at him and he heard him talking this language. The preacher said, oh, he's demon possessed. Why, even the church don't even know when God does something. Are you listening to me? They started laying hands on him to try to cast the devil out of him. And he said, got so discouraged, he said, my Lord, he said, why would God give me a devil? I never even known him. All I know is he healed me, and he gave me this thing, and this preacher's calling it a devil. And he said he got so discouraged, he went back to the bar. And he ordered another drink. He hadn't drank it yet, but while he was there, he was talking to some of his drinking buddies. And you know who the drinking buddies were? Backslidden Pentecostal folks. And he began to tell them the experience that he had with God. And one of them men knocked a drink out of his hand and said, my God, don't you know what that thing is you got? That's the Holy Ghost. God called you to preach, man. Get out of this bar. The church didn't even know what a religious experience was. He received something from God. They have eyes, but they can't see. They have ears, but they cannot hear. But it took an old backslider living for the devil to tell him what it was. God is looking for men and women today who can detect the voice of God. Here am I, Lord. Send me.